Devin Singletary. That is the name, and that is the decision. First, the cap question, then the run game pivot, and then the Jaxson Dart clue that changes everything. By the end, you will know what Big Blue is building. Lock in. Everybody looked at this roster and asked the same thing. Why is Devin Singletary still here? The Giants could have created around $5 million in cap savings by moving on. That is not small. Not for a team that needs flexibility, but now that decision is starting to look less random. Real talk before we dive in. Eagles fans love pretending Big Blue has no plan. Cowboys fans laugh before they even read the move. Commanders fans think they are already ahead. If you want this channel, buy Big Blue for Big Blue to drown out every rival fan base. Hit subscribe right now. Every sub is a flag planted at MetLife Stadium. Comment, "Let's go Giants," if you are New York tough. Now let's get to the first layer, because Singletary is not just a running back conversation, he is a clue. Here is the part that made people stop. The Giants did not release Devin Singletary, even though moving on could have created around $5 million in cap savings. That is the whole tension. Because when a team keeps a player instead of taking savings, it tells you something. It tells you the front office looked at the roster, looked at the offensive direction, and decided that keeping running back depth mattered more than clearing that space. And yes, I know the pushback. Big Blue is not exactly swimming in cap room. That phrase matters because this is not a team throwing money around with no concern. The Giants had a financial reason to make the clean move. They had an easy explanation ready. They could have said, we need flexibility, we need resources, we need to reshape the roster. They did not do it. That is where this gets interesting. If the offense is expected to lean more into the run game, Singletary becomes more than a backup name on the depth chart. He becomes part of the ecosystem. He becomes part of how the Giants protect their quarterback, stay balanced, and avoid putting every snap on Jaxson Dart's shoulders. Film don't lie. A run-focused offense needs more than one body. It needs rotation, reliability, and options. That is chess, not checkers. This is not about pretending Singletary is suddenly the entire offense. That would be fake analysis. This is about understanding why a team keeps a useful piece when the outside world expected a cut. The impact is simple. If the Giants are preparing to run more, then depth at running back is not a luxury. It is infrastructure. It is the floor of the offense. It is how you keep the chains manageable, how you give the quarterback cleaner situations, and how you build the tougher offensive identity this fan base has been begging for. Big Blue Nation knows what that means. This fan base does not want finesse football. This fan base wants the G-men to hit first. Personal opinion here. I think keeping Singletary is defensible, and I think cutting him for savings would have been short-sighted. Not because $5 million means nothing, but because the offensive plan clearly points toward more ground game value. Disagree? Drop your reasoning below, but wait, because story 2 is bigger than the cap question. Story 2 is about the identity shift underneath it all. Now, what most channels miss is that Singletary is not the headline by himself. He is the evidence. The bigger question is this: are the Giants preparing to become a more run-focused offense? That changes everything. Because if the Giants are leaning harder into the run, then keeping Singletary starts making football sense. The move stops looking like hesitation. It starts looking like alignment. The roster decision lines up with the offensive philosophy, and that matters under John Harbaugh. This is not a coach who should be building an offense that asks the quarterback to carry every drive alone. Not with Jaxson Dart, now the starting quarterback. Not with a young passer whose development matters to the entire direction of the franchise. You do not protect a young starting quarterback by talking about protection. You protect him with structure. You protect him with the ground game. You protect him by making defenses respect the run, hesitate on early downs, and play honest football. That is why this Singletary decision is bigger than one roster spot. If the Giants want new wrinkles around the quarterback, the run game becomes the foundation for those wrinkles. It gives the offense different looks. It creates stress before the snap. It forces the Eagles, Cowboys, and Commanders to prepare for something beyond a predictable drop-back script. And let's be honest, Big Blue needed that. For too long, Giants fans have watched offensive plans that felt too easy to diagnose, too clean for the defense, too dependent on everything going right. A tougher ground game ecosystem changes the tone. It says, we are not asking permission anymore. The impact here is not just about carries. It is about personality. A more run-focused Giants offense makes MetLife Stadium feel different. It gives the defense a break. It gives the quarterback rhythm. It gives the whole team a more physical identity. I'll say it, and I know half of you will push back. In my opinion, this is the most important offensive direction the Giants can choose. Not the flashiest. The most important. If Jaxson Dart is the starter, the run game cannot be decoration. It has to be the engine. Tell me I'm wrong. Now I want your take. Comment, genius, if keeping Singletary for a run-first shift makes sense. Comment, waste, if you think they should have taken the cap savings. No middle ground. Quick reminder, if you are still here, you are Big Blue. Hit subscribe, because story 3 is the real reveal. And that reveal is Jaxson Dart. Because the strongest argument for keeping this ground game structure is not only Singletary, it is the quarterback standing behind it. Stop for a second, forget the cap sheet, forget the surface level roster debate. The real question is not, why is Singletary still here? The real question is, what does his presence tell us about the offense being built around Jaxson Dart? That is the bomb, because once you connect Dart's athletic profile to the Giants wanting more run game layers, the entire decision starts to look different. Not perfect, not risk-free, but different. Now we get to the part that actually changes the season. Now, what you have really been waiting for. The story that flips this from a cap debate into a franchise direction. The one I told you about at the start. The reason Singletary staying on the roster cannot be judged in isolation. Here it is. Jaxson Dart is the current Giants starting quarterback, and outside attention has already pointed to his physical running ability. That is the key. If your starting quarterback brings athletic traits into the offense, then your run game cannot be basic. It has to be connected. It has to be layered. It has to make defenses ask uncomfortable questions. Is Dart keeping it? Is the back getting it? Is the offense using motion? Is the defense about to get punished for overcommitting? That is the ecosystem. And that is why Singletary matters more than people wanted to admit. If the Giants are adding new wrinkles around Dart, then keeping a running back who fits into a deeper ground game room has logic. It gives the offense more ways to stay on schedule. It gives Harbaugh more flexibility in how he builds the week-to-week plan. It gives Dart a system that does not force him into hero ball. That part is huge. Young starting quarterbacks need answers before the snap. They need defined looks. They need the defense to hesitate. A stronger ground game structure gives Dart that. It creates a world where every play does not have to be a pure passing test. Now connect this to the first story. The Giants could have taken around $5 million in cap savings by moving on from Singletary. They did not. If that decision happened in a pass-only offense, I would crush it. I would say the money mattered more. But in a run-leaning offense built around a physically capable quarterback, the calculation changes. Now connect it to story 2. If the offense is shifting toward a tougher identity, then running back depth is not dead weight. It is part of the design. You do not build a stronger ground game ecosystem with thin depth and crossed fingers. You build it with useful pieces, defined roles, and a quarterback whose athletic profile forces defenses to play with caution. That is where Big Blue can become annoying again. And I mean that as a compliment. The best Giants teams in the memory of this fan base were not cute. They were difficult. They made opponents uncomfortable. They dragged rivals into a fight. That is the spirit this roster decision points toward. No, keeping Singletary does not guarantee success, but it does reveal intention. It tells us the Giants are not just collecting players. They are trying to support a style, and the style is obvious. Run more, protect Dart, and build a tougher offensive identity. The Eagles should not get to tee off on this quarterback. The Cowboys should not get to sit on passing downs all game. The Commanders should not get a clean read on every drive. If Dart's legs are part of the equation, and the backs are part of the equation, then the offense finally has a chance to make defenses react instead of dictate. That is the whole point. I'm going on record right now. In my opinion, the Giants keeping Singletary is not a minor roster note. It is one of the clearest signs that the offense is being built around Jaxson Dart's actual skill set. If they had cut him just to chase savings, I think that would have been the weaker football decision. Convince me I'm wrong. I'm listening. Now you have your answer to the question I asked earlier. Drop genius if this plan makes sense. Drop waste if you still wanted the cap space. And if this analysis hit, like the video. That is how we keep the algorithm pushing real Big Blue breakdowns instead of lazy rival noise. 3 stories, 1 picture. The Giants kept Devin Singletary instead of taking around $5 million in cap savings. The offense is expected to lean more into the run game. Jaxson Dart's physical running ability gives that shift a real reason to exist. That is not random. That is a plan forming. The thesis is clear. Big Blue is trying to build a tougher offensive identity around a young starting quarterback, and Singletary staying on the roster fits that direction. Against the Eagles, Cowboys, and Commanders, that matters. Division games are not won by having the prettiest theory. They are won by forcing the other sideline to handle your identity. If the Giants can run more, protect Dart better, and create new wrinkles off his athletic profile, this offense becomes harder to dismiss. Listen, the next video is going to break down what this run-focused identity should look like around Jaxson Dart and which offensive pieces gain the most from it. If you are Big Blue for real, you need that breakdown. Subscribe now, hit the bell, and do not let YouTube bury this channel behind Eagles and Cowboys noise. Drop your final answer below, genius or waste. But listen closely. One decision is still hanging over this whole conversation. How far will the Giants actually go with the run game shift? Keeping Singletary points one way, Dart's athletic profile points the same way. The next step is whether the offense fully commits or only talks about committing. That answer is coming. And here is the rivalry piece. The Eagles, Cowboys, and Commanders are watching the same clues. They know a different Giants offense changes the weekly preparation. They know Dart plus a deeper ground game structure creates more to defend. So Big Blue, this is where we plant the flag. This is not just about Devin Singletary. This is about the G-men choosing a tougher path, a smarter path, and a more New York tough identity. Subscribe, stay locked, and drop your final answer below.